What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today I thought I would do something a little different because most all of my videos have been Transformers on this channel, but I do have an assortment of other random collection things, such as these action figures, some Gundam and stuff, so I figured why not review those as well. Maybe I'll do an action figure video and put out a Transformers video the next day, or something of that sort. Let me know what you think of this down in the comments if you just want Transformers or some other figures. But right now, today's review is the DC Multiverse Justice League. Now, I'm not going to get into what I thought about the movie or anything. There's a billion other people online that have already told you that. But overall, I liked some of the designs for these people, except for him. I didn't like his design that much, but we'll get into that with the toys. But the interesting thing about these multiverse toys were that each one came with this stuff. Each one came with different parts, and they're still doing this today, I'm pretty sure. They came with different parts to make like a bad guy or the main villain from the movie and just make a bigger action figure, basically. So that was the whole point of the line. Unfortunately, that means they didn't come with a lot of accessories, so this is pretty much all you got from the toys, and they should make up for that in their articulation, right? Right, guys? Spoiler alert, they don't. But let's start with my least favorite. Start with Aquaman. So in terms of sculpting, he is very nice. I can't fault any of these toys for their sculpt work because they are bang on to how they looked in that movie and how their costumes looked. The colors are also very nice, some very nice gold paint application, although the head sculpts are kind of bad. I think this is the most accurate head sculpt that you're probably going to get from these toys, and even then, it's pretty bad. The hair is very static, and the paint is kind of meh, especially on the front. On the back, it doesn't look too bad, but on the front, it looks pretty bad with just this heavy, like, dry brushing effect they were trying to do. But they did paint his eyes, and they kind of messed it up on mine because he looks like he's looking that way and this way at the same time. But overall, his sculpting is very nice. You have some rubber pieces like the shoulder pads that can get out of the way, and he comes with his trident from the movie that has bent over time. This has just been sitting in a box, and you can see there's a bit of a stress mark there from where his hand was. But overall, the sculpting on this is pretty nice. You got some sculpting on the pommel, I guess, there. And I wish it could have used a little paint, a little weathering, but overall it's fine. And on the figure, remember how I said that articulation, since these are not Transformers, they don't do anything, and they don't come with a whole lot of accessories. Like, he just came with this, and I believe the foot of Steppenwolf from the movie. You would think that they would focus a lot of on articulation, but it's not really. So the head is on a ball joint, I believe a double ball joint, that he can rock his head forward and back, but because of the way his hair is, it's this same rubbery material, but it's thicker, so it doesn't move a whole lot. So he can kind of turn his head, but then just snaps back into the center. So you kind of have to force it and bend that rubber, and then when you bend it back, it's at like a weird angle. So the head basically can't move unless you want to risk bending the rubber hair out of the way. But his arms can go up that far. These shoulder pads do kind of get in the way, but even then, there's no cut up there, so that's about as far as it could go anyway. He has the bicep swivel and a elbow swivel. A single jointed elbow. I kind of wish that was double, but there's not a whole lot of space for that. That can bend 90 degrees. This hand is just a closed fist, and that has a rotation. Kind of wish that could also move. A waist swivel that can go all the way around. Because of the sculpting, and this is the same for all of these except maybe Superman and Cyborg, it can only kick up that far. Kind of wish there was more of a cut there, maybe cut right underneath of this belt to get it to go up, or maybe make this a separate piece that can move out of the way, kind of like that, what was it, Ultimate Hulk, I think, that just came out now. But this hand is also an open hand that you can put the trident in. That also spins around. A single jointed knee, for some reason. There's so much room to put a double jointed knee there. I don't know why they didn't put it on him. Single jointed knee that can bend 90, and his feet can rock forward and backward, and no ankle tilt. Which, that kind of annoys me, because even on a figure that has to do more than he does, you still have all of this motion in him, and ankle tilts and stuff like that, and he does way more than he does. So, kind of would like a little bit more articulation from just the action figures. Oh, and he can kick out that far. That's pretty decent. But you can't really get him into any like super heroic action poses, because he just likes to fall over because of the lack of ankle tilt, and that would really help, and the lack of heels. I get on Transformers, it's different because you can have the heel stick out and no one cares because they're robots, but this has to be like an actual foot. But the ankle tilt definitely would have helped with that. And you can get him into some cool, like, action-y poses, but then he just falls over. So that's kind of annoying. And this head not being able to turn at all is kind of annoying. But that's not really much of a problem on the other figures, except maybe Wonder Woman. Speaking of, moving on to Wonder Woman. The costume is also very nicely detailed. She does have this rubber piece that was for the lasso and the sword. I don't have the sword or the lasso, but the lasso could go in there and the sword could sheath in there. But that's basically useless now. And you'll see this on a couple figures, and that's from Batman. And you've noticed in that lineup, Batman isn't there. I cannot find him anywhere. I know that I have him because I have all the parts for Steppenwolf, but I've looked everywhere. I cannot find him, but I know I did paint him with a super metallic silver, but it was like a paint marker, and it just rubbed off all over everything. I was 10. Don't judge me. But yeah, you'll see that on some figures. But overall, there's not much to say. It's pretty accurate to the movie. The colors are nice. I kind of wish the red could have been more vibrant like the Flash and Superman, but I guess that's just how it was in the film. And this gold is very nice too. It's a very nice gold and silver on there. But she suffers from the same problem. that Aquaman did with her head, where she has long hair, and that means you can't really turn her head, like, at all, without warping this rubber piece. And that's also a very stiff ball joint in the head too, and she doesn't have anything at the neck. I kind of wish they had cut this so the neck can move at least, but nope. Arms can go up that far, go all the way around. Same thing as Aquaman in the arms. This skirt piece does kind of get in the way of the forward and back motion of the legs and the out, so there's not much you can do with the legs. Again, not a double jointed knee for some reason, and no ankle tilts again. And this waist piece is even more hindering because you can't do any of that. So any like action pose you try to get her into is just like really awkward. And then, oh, she's standing now. It's just really awkward, and there's not a lot of motion that you can get with these because there's no butterfly joint either in the arms to get them forward. So it's just that. And also the arms could have used a cut in them to make them go further because hers bend under 90, so you can't really get that classic like thing she does in the movie where she slams the gauntlets together. You can't really do that. So that's kind of disappointing. Oh, and the face sculpt is also kind of bad. Kind of doesn't really look like Gal Gadot, but I don't really care about the faces of many people in the movie. Like him, close enough. Wonder Woman, close enough. Cyborg and the Flash, half their faces are covered, so I don't really care about that. The only one I care about is Superman because it's like front and center, and everybody knows what having Henry Cavill looks like. But moving on, next figure. Cyborg is probably my favorite. He doesn't do much in the movie, at least the original one. I watched the Snyder cut, and my god, that took like days for me to watch. But he does a lot more in the Snyder cut than he does in the original film. But oh, I forgot to mention on Wonder Woman a thigh swivel, which is kind of nice. That's not on Aquaman for some reason. He has this sort of like side to side motion, but he doesn't have that. All the others have it. I don't know why Aquaman doesn't have it, but all of them are also cut in different places. But get out of frame. But he definitely looks the part. The sculpting is pretty like immaculate here. I have no qualms about the sculpting. All their proportions look right from what I've seen, although the way this giant ball joint is, it kind of makes it look strange. But no, I'm not too worried about it. And the painting is also very nice. I can see where a lot of the paint budget went for this wave of figures. And they did paint his sort of glowing like chest area. The head is pretty accurate. I mean, half of it is covered, but on the human side of it, kind of crappy, but it's still one of the closer ones from the movie that we've seen. Painting, although, is a bit odd. It's like strange in some places. There's like overspray. You can see here that's definitely like a taped off line to keep that gray and silver like off, but on the front here, or no, over here, there's like overspray, and it didn't exactly get in the parts, so it's not like as sharp as it is over here, which is kind of strange. But he has some pretty decent articulation range. He has ball joint in the head. Can't do much, but at least he can turn his head all the way around. Waist swivel, no ab crunch. Arms can go all the way, only like T-pose out, and that kind of looks strange because of this big ball joint. I don't know why it's like that, but bicep rotation. He has a slight, it's very stiff, but he has a slight elbow, there we go, thing. But you'll notice that these also spin rather than the hands. I'm assuming that's because just the way the hands are built, it's too thin to put there. But it's also because you can take these hands off. Is it this one or is it this one? It's this one. You can take these hands off, and he comes with his cannon thingy that he had in the film. And you can just pop that on, and now he has his big old cannon that he had in the film. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Doesn't exactly blend in, but I don't care. But yeah, he does have that. He doesn't have the same sort of cut thing that Aquaman and Wonder Woman have, where it cuts too low or there's something hindering it. So it can go all the way forward, not too much back because of his butt. His swivel, his thigh swivel, is cut in a different place than Wonder Woman's is. It's sort of lower down than Wonder Woman's is. But single jointed knee, can bend 90, and then he has very large feet, so he does have a pretty stable base. But again, no ankle tilts, can only rock backward and forward. So you can get him into some pretty decent action poses. But again, no ankle tilt, so he wants to fall over all the time. But not too bad. He's probably one of the more articulated ones. And then we move on to my favorite DC character, the Flash. And he sucks. He sucks a lot. So the sculpting is very nice. I like how they picked out all of the silver lines on his suit. I like this suit. I'm probably one of the few people that thinks the suit in The Flash was pretty cool looking if he didn't have the whole like big head thing going on. But this suit is still pretty cool, probably one of my favorites. However, the sculpting on him is so freaking weird. So his neck is sculpted forward, so he always looks like he's like really like looking at something. So you can get the like ab thing working, and that has it normal, but then that has him like puff his chest out, and these shoulders are like too far down for me. Like it looks weirdly proportioned with this like neck area, so it looks like too far down. And also the way that this is sculpted, you can't put his hands flat, so he's always like standing really weird. So if you just want to stand him there, he looks super awkward with all of that. And posing is also very weird, because you have an ab crunch, but it's like barely there. No double hinge in the, oh wait, yeah, there is a double hinge in the neck. You just can't use it. Very stiff ball joint. I feel like I'm gonna rip that off, but it can go full 360. Arms can go a little above the T-pose. Same arm situation as the rest of them. Waist joint, he has it cut up more, so he can go almost all the way forward and kind of go back because of this, but that looks really awkward. And he's the only one that has a double jointed knee. And I mean, he's the Flash, so that's, I'm assuming, for running poses, which would be nice if you could get him into any. And then same like situation, and his thigh swivel is cut really far up. I don't know why it's like that. They're all slightly different levels, but his is really high up. So I kind of wish that you could like get him into better like running poses, and it would be very nice if he had an ankle tilt, so then he could, you know, actually stay when he's in the running poses. He's gonna stay now because he's on camera, but oh, and there he goes. But his articulation for the one that is supposed to be super fast and nimble and agile is dookie. I don't like him that much. Now we move on to Superman. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to make this video, because of the new Superman movie with David Cornsweet. Go see it. Awesome movie. I loved it. But he is pretty decent, actually. Head sculpt sucks. We all know what Henry Cavill looks like, and he doesn't have anything obscuring his face, no long hair or glasses or anything, so you can really see the head sculpt sucks. Also, it's slightly warped. This like chin is lower on this side than is on this side. Colors are pretty bang on accurate to the movie. Sculpting is really accurate. I wish they had picked out these lines that he has on his suit, because in Justice League those lines are gold rather than just being molded in into a suit, so that's kind of annoying. The cape is cloth, so I kind of wish there was like a wire through it that you could pose, but it's not that bad. It does like to fold in on itself though, and there's that silver that I was talking about from Batman. And posing is pretty much just like the rest of them. Head is on a very stiff ball joint. Waist, no ab crunch. Kind of wish he had one, being Superman. Hair above the T-pose, same. Arm situation. Legs, really crappy because the way his calf is sculpted, it bumps into that. Can't go back that far. Single jointed knee, and probably the most usable up and down. It's not hindered by anything, and it's all plastic, not like rubbery. So his posing is pretty good. You could get him in like a sort of like hovering pose. I wish that he had a double hinge in his neck, because that would be really easily concealed by his cape, but you don't. So if you want to get him into the like classic Superman flying pose, then he's constantly looking down, which is kind of annoying. But he's not too bad. His articulation is limited, but there's still some cheats you can use to get around his articulation. But the main part is all of this stuff that they come with to make Steppenwolf. So I'm not sure, I can't remember which ones came with which. I know Aquaman came with this leg, but this is actually really interesting because you have these sort of like peg things that go into there, so you just push them into there, and there's his lower half done. You take the upper body. This is kind of annoying to do because you need these ball joints to be facing as up as you can get them, and then this rubber shoulder pad gets in the way, but there is a port in there, so you just kind of like, if it was the right hand, you can kind of finagle it into there and get it in there. Take his head, put that on there, which is easier said than done. There we go. Click that together, get his axe, just shove that in there. Come on. Come on. Oh my god. There we go. And there you have Big boy Steppenwolf. So he is bang on accurate to the movie. No complaints here. He is a Build-A-Figure, so he's a lot larger than the rest of them. Like, this is Superman compared to him. Like, he's big. Let me get a leader class Transformer. He's taller than a leader class. So he's big. And being big, you can put a lot of detail into this. Now this is the original design. The Snyder Cut design looks a lot better, but this is what I got, so this is what we're working with. The paint is very nice metallic silver. The paint on his hands has started coming off, but that's just because he's older. This is like 2018, I think, so it's been a while. But overall, detail is pretty bang on. Head sculpt is also bang on. He's not a human, so you don't really have to nail that face shape. So they got that pretty accurate. That's also just a larger area to work with. And his articulation is probably the best out of all of them. So he has an ab crunch that's a lot more usable than the Flash's was. He has a waist joint that's a lot tighter than the rest of them, thankfully. Arms can only really go out that far, but that's just because of these shoulder pads. There's no way to take them off, so we're just gonna have to deal with it. A little under 90-degree bend. Kind of wish he had a double jointed situation going on. You can... He likes to fall apart a bit, just because you gotta build him. Oh, double hinge at the neck. Can move all around. Very nice. But, oh my god. These do move out of the way because there's that cut there in his design. Single jointed knee that bends 90 degrees, and kind of unusable ankle up and down movement. But you can still get him. This axe is a little loose. But you can still get him into some pretty, like, low down. Well, not really low down, but some, like axe type villain poses. His design kind of reminds me of Skeletor, probably because of this whole situation. But I don't know, that's interesting to me. I don't know why. But his articulation is also a bit crappy, but So overall, these figures, they're not the greatest. I know that, like, I mostly review Transformers, and, like, I have Gundams and stuff, and they are super articulated, and it's like whenever there's not, like, an ankle tilt in a Transformer, or whenever there's, like, some kind of, like, limitations to the Transformers articulation, we're all like, oh no, what are we gonna do? But this really makes me appreciate how much articulation Transformers do have, because these things are kind of crappy. I mean, they're meant for kids, like 8 and up, so I can't harp on them too bad, but there's almost the whole team, minus Batman, but they all have the same amount of articulation, around the same range, except for the Flash, and they're kind of meh. They're just kind of crappy. They look cool, they look good standing there, minus the Flash, but overall, unless you want Steppenwolf from this movie, wouldn't really recommend them. There are other figures that are a lot better, probably more expensive, but they look a lot better, pose a lot better. If you just want to buy these for, like, your kids or something, then I guess that would be fine, because these are good for slamming into each other. But they're just meh. They're just okay for me. But that's my look at the DC Multiverse Justice League. Follow me on Instagram at Rodimus_slime, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.